Yes.
All right, so I have to kick us off with what might be one of the most wild, almost cinematic stories I've read in a long time. Donald Trump, a secret plane switch, a catering truck, and alleged Iranian assassination attempts. I mean, where do you even begin with something like this?
Honestly, Chloe, when I first saw the headlines, I thought it was satire. But no, it's real. The visual alone of a president being covertly smuggled in a food container from one Air Force One to a smaller C-32A is just, it's something else. It screams a spy thriller, doesn't it?
It absolutely does, Lucas. And the fact that it was all in response to intelligence officials raising legitimate concerns about a possible Iranian assassination attempt, that's not just a security measure, that's an elaborate ruse designed to deceive. It shows the level of perceived threat, which is pretty unsettling.
And the sheer audacity of the plan. Think about the coordination required. You're talking about Air Force One, the most recognizable plane in the world, essentially being used as a decoy with unsuspecting journalists and even senior White House staffers on board, completely unaware. That's a whole new level of need-to-know basis. Right? I can't imagine being one of those journalists, thinking you're on the president's plane, following all the protocols, like being told to close your window shades, only to find out later you were essentially bait. What a story they got, though, eventually.
It's incredible. And the details are just so specific. He initially flies to the summit in Turkey on a new Qatari-gifted 747-8. Then, for old time's sake, he's supposed to return via the UK on an older Air Force One model. That's where the switch happens. He's seen boarding the legacy Air Force One in Ankara, but then he secretly enters a food container fitted to the belly of the plane. A catering truck drives it to the waiting C-32A. I mean, the logistics are insane.
And not only that, but Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth made a prominent show of boarding the C-32A, specifically to sell that illusion. So you have cabinet members actively participating in this elaborate deception. It truly highlights the perceived credibility of the threat they were dealing with.
It makes you wonder, though, about the psychological impact on everyone involved, especially the Secret Service and the president himself. To know that there's such a specific, credible threat, that this kind of operation is deemed necessary, that's a lot of pressure. And then Trump's reaction to it all. He says he just follows what the Secret Service tells him to do, which makes sense, but then he minimizes the significance, saying, I guess there was a threat out there, I didn't really ask too much about it, I get a lot of threats. That's classic Trump, downplaying the drama while being at the center of it.
Yeah, and not only does he minimize it, he actually claims the C-32A he flew on was more dangerous. He said, I think actually the plane that I flew on was at greater risk. I think it was at greater risk because that would be the plane I think that they would be more likely to go for it. Which, is a wild take given the whole point of it being a secret.
It's almost a defiant stance, isn't it? As if to say, even when you try to protect me, I'm still the biggest target. It fits his narrative of being constantly under attack, which he reinforces by saying he has a threat all the time on his life and is number one on Iran's list. It's a way of simultaneously acknowledging the threat and portraying himself as uniquely important.
But let's be fair, the threats from Iran have been pretty explicit and public. I mean, a massive banner in Tahrir Square in Tehran featuring a caricature of Trump under a blood-red bullseye with the chilling phrase, "There will be blood" in English capitals. And then AI-generated videos reportedly highlighting Melania and Barron Trump's locations and how they could be targeted. That's not just rhetoric, that's a direct and terrifying threat. That's exactly it, Maya. This isn't just some vague, we don't like you statement. This is specific, almost instructional. In its malice, it makes the Secret Service's actions not just understandable, but absolutely necessary. You can't ignore that kind of intelligence.
Absolutely. And White House Communications Director Stephen Chung confirmed that administration officials engaged in subterfuge, stating, as the president has said recently, there are many enemies of America who have their sights on him, and we use every tool at our disposal, including distraction and misdirection, to address those threats. That's a direct admission that this wasn't just a rumor.
Which is rare, Usually these kinds of operations remain shrouded in secrecy for decades, if not forever. For them to confirm it, even after the fact, suggests they want to send a message, both to adversaries and to the public, about the seriousness of the threats they face and the measures they're willing to take.
And think about the mental gymnastics involved for the Secret Service. They're tasked with protecting the president at all costs, and that includes making decisions that put others, unknowingly, in harm's way, like the journalists on the Decoy Plane. It's a heavy burden, weighing the president's life against the risks to others, however minimal the Secret Service might perceive them to be. It really highlights the unique challenges of presidential security in the modern age, doesn't it? With global travel, immediate intelligence, and the omnipresent threat of terrorism. This isn't like the old days of just securing the motorcade.
Not at all. And the whole sequence of events is just fascinating from a logistical standpoint. After the two planes land in the UK, Trump is smuggled back from the C-32A to the Legacy Air Force One jet, seen descending external stairs, and then he embarks on the Qatari-donated plane to travel back to Washington with the press pool. It's a triple plane switch, essentially.
The level of operational complexity is staggering, and the fact that they pulled it off without a hitch, at least in terms of security, speaks volumes about the Secret Service and the military personnel involved. It's an incredible feat of planning and execution, regardless of your political leanings.
And the journalists, when they finally got to speak to Trump on the Qatari plane, asked why their window shades were ordered down on the decoy flight in Turkey. His response? Because you're probably on a dangerous flight because of the sleazebags that we have to deal with. Again, just blunt, unvarnished Trump. Yeah, he really doesn't pull punches, does he? But it also brings us back to the question of what constitutes a dangerous flight. The White House did release a statement insisting that the Qatari-donated aircraft is secure and equipped with the most advanced technologies necessary to meet requirements of the presidential mission. So the threat wasn't the plane itself, but the person on the plane.
Exactly. Chung, the communications director, specifically denied that the new plane posed a security risk, emphasizing it's state-of-the-art and fitted with high-level security protocols. It wasn't about the Qatari jet being vulnerable, it was about the president's movements being predictable.
Which is a crucial distinction. It means the adversaries weren't necessarily looking to target a specific aircraft model, but rather Trump himself, based on anticipated travel plans. The deception was designed to break that predictability and create confusion. It also makes you wonder what other lengths are taken that we never hear about. This story only came out because Trump chose to talk about it, and then White House officials had to corroborate parts of it. How many times have similar, less dramatic security measures been put into play without public knowledge?
That's a terrifying thought, Maya. It suggests a constant, high-stakes game of cat and mouse happening behind the scenes. This specific incident, though, with the catering truck and the decoy plane, it's just so unique in its execution. It almost feels like something from a Cold War spy novel, but in the 21st century with all the modern tech and intelligence capabilities.
The human element is what really makes it compelling for me. The idea of these highly trained Secret Service agents having to improvise on the fly, or rather, having a meticulously planned improvisation, and the sheer number of people who had to be in on the actual plan while keeping it secret from so many others. It's a masterclass in operational security.
And it raises questions about the future of presidential travel. If this kind of elaborate ruse is becoming necessary for international summits, what does that mean for the visibility and accessibility of future presidents? Are we heading towards an even more insulated, security-heavy presidency? I think it's almost inevitable, Marcus. The world has changed. The nature of threats has evolved. And with social media and instant communication, the ability for adversaries to gather intelligence and plan has also increased. So the defensive measures have to escalate in kind. This story is just a very stark, very public example of that escalation.
It truly is. From an old Air Force One to a smaller C-32A, concealed in a food container, all to evade a credible threat from Iran. And then, the president himself downplaying it while simultaneously boosting his own most threatened status. It's a story that has so many layers, and honestly, it makes you appreciate the unseen work of those protecting our leaders, no matter who they are.
Yeah, it really does. And I think it's a reminder that even at the highest levels of power, there are still these very real, very human vulnerabilities that require extraordinary measures to mitigate. This wasn't just a flight, it was a mission.
A mission that, for all its drama, successfully achieved its primary objective, the president's safety. And that, I think, is the bottom line here, despite all the fascinating details about decoys and catering trucks.
Definitely. It's a testament to the dedication of the Secret Service. What a wild ride, right?
Absolutely. Well, on that note, we'll wrap up this incredible discussion. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into presidential covert ops, everyone.